Pop in, say hi. If you've never been to one of my lives before, hi, I'm Cindy. I explore the inside and the outside, and this is my first live show that I do during the week. It's once a week, it's Sunday. For the most part, it is a very comfortable evening. So if you feel like you'd like to pop in and join us in that conversation, we'd love to have you. This is a community, and that was a word that we had on our other live show, What's My Good Cheer, which is 5 days a week. and and we had this word community, but I would have to say, for a good representation of the meaning of that word, you just have to look at my crew. You just gotta come in here and hang out with us for a few minutes, and it would be so easy for you to be enveloped by all that care that is here, and whether that is an ear, right, in something you want to say, or whether it's your ear in something that we're saying. Because I tell ya, I'm a chatter, but these guys chat more than I do. Sometimes it's really hard for me to keep track of what they're doing because, right, I'm doing my thing. And I try to stay in the conversation, and that's something that's pretty amazing about this live show that we have, because I actually try to stay in the conversation. I have the comments at a slow pace, so 60 seconds, so that it gives me a chance. For the most part, I do miss things, but if I miss things and it's important, Andrew or Owen or Kathy, right? Or Melvin, somebody will call me on it, right? And I will course correct, because we are a community, and I am a true believer in majority rules. So in that conversation that we have each week, right? It's dictated by the conversation, and nothing like my other show, right? What's My Good Cheer? It's casual, it's light, it's right, truly a whole bunch of goodness, sometimes a lot of silliness, right? Right? But it is a community. How have your guys' week been? I got home. I got myself a cup of coffee. I'm all settled in my work week in that job that puts the roof over my head, that allows me to create this amazing space online, right? Or in the lessons, right? Or in Mother Nature. I'm hoping to get a little bit of time in the next couple of days. I thought in a couple of days I'd go for a really nice, one of my nice 10-kilometer or 8-kilometer walks. But tomorrow is going to be absolutely beautiful. In the pluses again, we are going to be, well, they're saying +6, but when they say +6, they're anticipating +10, but they're just covering their bases. So, what a beautiful, beautiful day tomorrow would be to go out. I kind of have to look at the itinerary. My first day off from work is the job that puts the roof over my head. Quite often, it's not a write off. It truly, I have to say, it's not a write off, but I don't have that physical stamina to go off and do the busy, busy. My first day off is usually that day that I apply myself, and do the laundry, relax, re-energize, spend a little bit of time with my cat because I've been away, right? From my cat. She's used to me being around quite a bit. And, just as much I want to stay emotionally happy, I want my cat to, right? My cat has contributed to my well-being greatly. I don't know. I've never asked you guys before about the pets, right? You know, do you have pets? Do you have cats, dogs, gerbils, guinea pigs, mice, rats? I had rats at one time. And if you don't, is it because you don't like the animals, right? Or is there a preference to a pet? What would be, if you had a pet, what would be your favorite pet? What would be the pet that you have? I have always been a cat person. I have had dogs before, but I am a cat person. And each of us, right? We have preferences, I'm sure. And lots of people might not even like to have pets because they have allergies or something. Clyde. Oh my goodness, that's a great name. I like that name, Clyde. Oh, Owen, that's amazing. Are those cats that come to your house, do you think they're feral cats, or do you think they might have homes, but you're kind of like the foster dad that they come to visit? Ah, Owen likes the cats too. Yeah, I have always been a cat person. Surprisingly, I had rats and I loved the rats. Rats were very much like the cats in the way they're so affectionate that way. But I guess dogs are very affectionate too, right? My problem with the dogs is, they want to lick your face after they've licked their bum. But I guess cats, I don't allow my cat to lick my skin or suckle on me or anything like that. And I don't think, right, she has that tendency sometimes because she's just learning to play. I've had her, I think, now for 3 or 4 years now, and she was a cat, probably a farm cat, but she didn't know how to play, and it's taken me a long time to teach her to play. But I find that when she gets excited about the playing, and the playing really are those really rough scrubby dubbies on the head and under the neck and right back scrubs and stuff, that she does sometimes get overexcited, and then she will go for a nibble on my hand, over excitement. But I always just say no biting, and then she'll stop right away because I know she's just doing it because she gets overexcited with the attention, right? So I do love my cat. I have always loved cats. I've never been much of a dog person, but I appreciate the dogs. I appreciate the humanness in them. And I think that's why I don't like the dogs as much as I like the cats, because a cat, you can leave it home by itself for a few days if you have to. You fill up its bowl, fill up its water, it's good to go. Clean its cat litter, it's good for 3 days. A dog is need of that companionship because they look at you as their best friend. And, when we talk about loyalties, right? Dogs are very, very loyal. But, right, that kind of loyalty is a reciprocation. You know what I mean? Like you have to, When the dogs are so giving that way, that you have to be able to give as much. You have to be able to go in for the face and muzzle and let them lick your face, and right, and they have baths like once every month or two, and right, and you have to be close to an animal that's right a month. How would you feel about going near somebody who hasn't had a bath or a shower in a month, right? Yeah, it's just, I feel that need, that affection has to go towards your pet. And if I had a cat, a dog, if I had a dog, I would have to be right, I would have to be physically affectionate towards it because right? They're not as self-reliant as a cat, I think. They're bigger, dogs are much bigger, but I don't think they're as reliant and self-reliant, right? As a cat is. And that's how I look at it. Okay. Andrew says he doesn't particularly like animals. My family had one dog as I was growing up, as I was a child, young adult. Oh, gotta go backwards. You guys are chatting too fast. But the dog preferred my mother to the rest of us. Yeah, so dogs are like that. They can become very codependent, or maybe it was the other way around, that your mother and the dog found that companionship, that comfortability, right? That feeling safe, feeling like they were part of each other, and that's a codependency. But people do that with their pets too. Oh yeah, 100%. And then the animal is so, right, so comfortable with that one person, that they're good, they don't need anybody else. For me, myself, growing up as a child and as a teenager and as an adult even, I always had that one person. I didn't understand about codependency. You guys understand about codependency? If I'm talking about this, like, it's right, because I don't want to bore you to death on a topic that you don't understand totally. But codependency is really when you become emotionally attached to somebody so much that you can't go without that person's input, that person being beside you, right? You don't want to move forward without that person, because you guys are so attached. Keep in mind, codependency can either be, right, two people, because I've had those relationships where we have both been codependent on each other, right? And this is just a type of relationship. There's, right, lots of people, they call codependency bad, and they look at it as something bad. I look at it like love, right? Because I love these relationships because they made me feel safe. I was around people I was interested in. I was around people who were interested in me. I was interested in people who I understood and got, and I could accept their faults along with the good parts of them, and they could do the same for me. I think that's pretty amazing. But in that codependency, sometimes one party, right, plays the alpha in that and becomes not more superior, but making more of the calls. And so this person here will have a tendency to live like this person's living, right? If they really want to be with them, they'll meld their personalities to meet this person, to make this person feel comfortable. And that's that highly sensitive, that's that empathic tendencies that we have. And I was that person, right? I've talked quite a bit on my channel about my parents, my dynamic family, and those situations. And you guys probably have guessed a long, long time ago, and you didn't need me to tell you that I was very codependent uh, with my father. He was my safety net. There weren't there wasn't a tendency to have that hypervigilance and have that need to buy hypervigilant. And I could feel pretty safe when my dad was around, because I know people would make those moves on me when my dad was around, right. In the 70s, it was common. We're not talking about, the slap upside the head and the yelling and stuff, because that was pretty the norm in the 70s. But it was in the tendencies, sometimes that people would take out their frustrations in physical ways, right? And I was quite traumatized by that. And My father was my best friend. He was my safe zone. He was the love of my life, right? And nobody, I don't think anybody would be able to compete with that kind of love that I had with that my dad. But it was a very codependent type of relationship. It was very codependent, and I think codependency runs in my family and has run for generations, if not thousands and thousands of years. I think is just built into part of that epigenetics in us, and when my father passed away, I always had one person, right? My dad was that one person until he wasn't around anymore, right? But then I had right away, I have to move in, right? And be that belonging to somebody else, right? That codependent relationship on somebody else. And I always tried to go, well, I think it just the way it worked. I wouldn't have allowed and I wouldn't have stepped down in my confidence and my reasoning that I was deserving of good relationships. So I sought out those good relationships. And, it was really lucky of me to be able to also find people who were also in that codependent kind of relationship with me, also. And it was a tendency in my life to do that. And I did that with many, many friends until, as you know, I became, after my marriage fell apart, uh, right? I needed that one person again. And I became a codependent with somebody in my own family with my sister Tracy. Right? She's a pit bull. That one. She is very controlling and right, but it's lots of fun because she was a really great manifester, and if I had the idea, she could whip things up, right? And she took care of all my problems, and I would like to think that I probably took care of a lot of the issues that she had, and I made her comfortable in her uncomfortableness. It made the things that weren't going right in her life a little bit more bearable, but I became very codependent in that relationship. And it was when I recognized and understood about codependency, right? It's only been in the past half a dozen years, and it was difficult. I tried a few times to break that relationship because it was pulling me down, and it was neither of our fault. It's just that, I was very codependent with my father, and she was very codependent with my mother. She was my mother's favorite. She was the golden child, right? And I didn't recognize it because she was doing so many amazing things for me, and she made life so much fun and so easy, and again, it's that codependent relationship, and it's not a bad thing, but in the lessons that I'm taking, I've got those lessons that they are very unhealthy because you don't learn, right? Because my sister took care of everything for me, right? I didn't have to learn about how to take care of those bills because if I fell behind, my sister would take care of it. If I needed a car, my sister would take care of it. Whatever I needed, my sister was so generous, right? Like I didn't have a want for anything, but I was always with her, and I was always right? Like I said, one person shifts their life to accommodate somebody else. And I did that for my sister Tracy. And I sacrificed quite a bit of my freedom, quite a bit of an opportunity. I could have gotten married again, right? But I was so still sad because I wasn't able to give myself that opportunity to heal in that, to really grieve in that because, right, life was fun. Everything was taken care of. I was moving forward with my sister Tracy. And I sacrificed that opportunity to find husband number two and to have that opportunity to have children, right? Because it was in that, right? The clock was ticking. My husband, one of the reasons of our split was he wanted me because I was already pushing. He promised we were going to have kids, and right, he didn't want to pass that family bloodline down. It was funny because I talked about this with somebody else today, different different person, different conversation, but on the same topic. He didn't want to pass his bloodline down. And before I married him, I made a promise that we could have at least one, right? And I was 37 years old. It was, if we were going to have kids, it had to be then because, right, I was going to go into menopause soon. And, right, he wanted me to have that opportunity to have children. That codependency kind of thing really did mess me up, but I didn't see the problems in the codependency because all my needs were being taken care of. I didn't have any worries. Life was fun. My sister was amazing. If I had any problem, and I was gambling, and she was covering those gambling debts too, right? Absolutely crazy. So I took a lot of lessons in codependency, right? I took a lot of lessons in on empaths and being a highly sensitive and how I could get sucked into these things, like how easily any of us could get sucked into these things, and then have that realization, right? I'm probably going to come back with my family. I do believe, right? Some of those members I have already bumped into in my movement, and being able to understand there were lessons in that. There were lessons in that, and I am not falling back into codependency, right? So I do this as much as I can on my own, taking the lessons and whatever come across my path as a lesson. But I have to make that movement for myself because nobody's going to say that I move towards things because of that codependent nature of mine, right? I'm going to do this on my own. And then whoever I want to go hang with, that's who I'm going to go hang with, right? And that's just the way it is. And that's right, a little bit, I was going to say, a little short version of what codependency is, right? A little bit more insight into my nature and where, maybe some of that expertise lays, right? Because these are lessons that have served me well and helped me to be able to pull away from some very important relationships in my life, right? Like you have to pull away from the love part, right? Because the love part is what's so damaging, right? I couldn't do for myself because I was so reliant and so dependent on others, and I've been doing it, right? We're going on 4 years now, you guys. And I've been doing it on my own, right? And every year it just gets a little bit better. And that's the truth. It gets a little bit better. Now, I don't know how that conversation started, but let's back up. Let's back up. Kathy, I saw you there, dear. I saw you, Kathy. Um, You got your cat from the woods? It was in the woods. You found your cat in a forest? So your cat was feral? Oh, and Owen's cats are feral too. They let a whole bunch of feral cats. Well, Owen, you would know about this because you're from that state, right? But in New York, I heard that they released a whole bunch of feral cats into the city to help with the rat problem because supposedly New York has been infested with rats again. Now, I don't know if that's true, but if anybody knows here, Owen would know that answer. Yeah, let me know in the comments there. Andrew, I used to be friendly with a neighbor's cat. The cat once brought a dead shrew into my bedroom as a gift. She also left a couple of dead bats at the front door. Oh, that's so sweet, Andrew, because that says she really, really did love you because you're right, 100%. That's what they do. They bring you gifts, right? Yeah, just like Kathy says, I go into the next comment, And Kathy said the exact same thing. The cat picks you, right? Well, my cat didn't pick me, right? Well, I guess in a way it did. My cat got caught in a farm field in the middle of winter, minus 40 outside, and the farmer saw my cat's footprints in the snow around the shed. So he went to look and he could hear my cat in the shed, but he couldn't see it. So he started leaving food for the cat every once in a while so the cat would have enough food. Finally, the cat came out and its butt end had all been rotted and everything because she got frostbite on the tail. She also got frostbite on the ear. But the tail was already gone. Like the tail already froze and broke off and rotted or whatever it did. But the ear was still there. So the farmer grabbed the cat and took it into the house and saved the cat. But he didn't want to keep the cat. He had animals already. And so remember you guys when I had that plan to travel across Canada on my crappy Walmart mountain bike. I was going to get me one of those baby trailers. I was going to put all my camping gear in the baby trailer and I was going to go travel. And I was serious. I was going to travel across Canada on this really crappy Walmart mountain bike. And I was looking for a kitten because I wanted to take a kitten with me. I was going to take it in a basket, and I was going to get the kitten to travel across Canada with me, and I was going to make videos, right? Because I knew if COVID had started, I didn't know what else to do, right? I didn't know what else to do. I was going to end up homeless and right, no job or anything, and then just miracle after miracle after miracle, and I just ate those miracles up. I said, I don't care. I am just following this. I'm just doing this and I don't care. And you guys, I saved my butt. I didn't make it onto my crappy Walmart mountain bike with the basket with the kitten, right? Not because things started moving better for me, only because, right, that farmer talked to me and told me the sad story about the cat. And I said, okay, bring me the cat. And he brought me this cat, and I couldn't believe how big this cat. It was like it was absolutely huge. You guys know why I called my cat Meatball, right? It's just absolutely massive. But they say when cats go through really traumatic moments, that their system starts storing food. And because the cat was freezing and in the shed for so long without food, and it had lost all its weight because the farmer said it was super skinny when he got it, it almost died, right? Um, that they tend to eat and eat and eat and they get fat and they maintain that weight because they're afraid that they're going to get into that scary situation again. My cat sometimes has nightmares and it kicks and stuff in its and cries in its sleep, right? So I don't know what it went through, but whatever it went through, maybe a fox bit its tail off or something. Maybe it wasn't frostbite, right? But I'll never know what that experience is. But I'm sure glad that she ended up at my place with me, right? I didn't end up she would never the first day she came home, I said, well, let's see if she'll do well outside, right? I had to be ready to be on the move, right? I was already getting my eviction notices and stuff. It was only COVID that made it possible so that I could keep my apartment because they couldn't kick me out during COVID, right? Sending some good cheer to the fire truck. I live behind a fire station. So yeah, this cat really saved me. It really cheered me up at one of the lowest points in my life. Oh my goodness, it was so scary. You guys, I never told you guys how scary it was, but it was so scary because I was doing my live shows still. I never let my live shows slip. I was really fighting with my sisters. I was so angry, and she was angry, and right. But at the same time, I loved her so much, but I knew we weren't rubbing each other well and not serving each other well. And I was trying so hard to stay away in that relationship because, right, I needed to live my own life, right? I needed to live my own life. I'd never lived my own life in my entire life. I was going to live my own life, right? I did it. It was really hard. It was really scary time in my life. And I did it all by myself with nobody for the first time in my life. I was not codependent on anybody except for myself. I was just doing it on my own steam, 100%. So I was very grateful for that cat when it showed up because it really cheered me up in a really, really bad time, right? Okay, coming into those comments. Okay. Um, okay, so Andrew says, I agree, Kathy, when Kathy said that a cat must have really, really liked him, right? That's the animal I've had the most connection with in my life. Otherwise, I'm not an animal person. Andrew says, I found myself in friendships in which I become more of a therapist or a place to vent than a friend in a healthy give and take relationship. Oh, God. Andrew, you just jogged something in my memory. We have an organization here. They're called um, the Bear Clan, and they're an indigenous group and they go about in the city in the day in the evenings in large groups, in like groups of even maybe 10 people, and they wear vests to signify who they are, and they buy pizza for the homeless and drinks for the homeless, and when they're having problems or they don't have blankets, right, they work with different organizations to help these individuals out. Well, the past 3 days, I've been coming home from work, and there's a bus shack, and in that bus shack, there was a lady. You could tell she was homeless. She had a whole bunch of bags, but not only did she have a whole bunch of bags, but she had a cat carrier, and I knew there was a cat in that cat carrier. So on the third day, I bumped into the Bear Clan. They were helping out an individual who was having a some kind of drug episode or something, and they were really freaking out. And so while they were all trying to help her, there was part of the group was off to the side. So I said, oh, I says, you know, if you're helping the homeless tonight, I says, two blocks down in the shack at Crazy Corner, I says, there's a lady been there for 3 days now, and she's got a cat, and she could sure use some help. And they let me know that they tried to help her, but she's refused. But they also told me that she's new to homelessness. Like she just got homeless. She just lost her apartment, but she's just refusing. She's refusing help right now. So I just wanted to say it's a sad situation, everybody. Everybody take care of yourselves in this world right now. Whatever small kindnesses you can do for others, that's so, so amazing. But I think in this moment, I think we ourselves need that kindness because we're vulnerable. We're vulnerable too. Lots of us are sacrificing ourselves to take care of others. I see it absolutely everywheres, right? And I see it even here, right? So yeah, love on yourself, you guys. It's important. You're no good to anybody. You're no good to anybody or anything unless you're taking care of yourself. Um, Andrew, I found myself in friendships in which I'd become more of a therapist or a place to vent than a friend in a healthy give and take relationship. Um, it's an unequal power dynamic. I was a lesson I took today. It was really good. It was a really good lesson. It's because, sometimes we follow people, right? And it's not because we trust them or we admire them, right? Or that we think they know right, it is because they have the authority, right? And they have that power. Now, I don't know. I wish I could give credit to the person who said that, because it hit it hit home with me. It was it was so it was so true. I've had those relationships. A lot of those relationships are employer relationships. Is a good example, right? Who here has not had an employer that you didn't respect, that didn't pull their own weight, right? That passed down the buck, that didn't hold to their own responsibility and just pass the blame down, right? Right? They don't get our respect, but because they're our bosses, because they are the authority, right? Sometimes we can find ourselves in that situation where we don't have a choice. We do have to buckle, right? Right? It's like the President of the United States says, we declare war, right? Wow. That's a big one, because the President of the United States is an authority, isn't it? And sometimes, right, you don't respect that president. Sometimes, right, you have to do things you don't want to do, like paying your taxes, right? But you have to do it because, right, they are the authority. You know, women in some aspects have it easy that, we can volunteer to join the army or the air force, right? The men and the boys, they are drafted, right? They are drafted. My brand, PrairieDodgers, right? PrairieDodgers is named after a group of war draft dodgers. They didn't want to go to war. They went against their morals, their beliefs, right? But somebody else had that authority, right? And they were being drafted. They didn't have a choice, right? And somehow they made it across the border into Canada, into one of two villages. Now I don't know. There are two. I know the small villages. They start with a C. I'm thinking it's probably Carberry, only because I know there's a lot of rails around that town. But those draft dodgers came up to Manitoba, across the border, came up to Manitoba, and they lived in the abandoned train cars, and they were got to known as prairie dodgers, right? Like, instead of war draft dodgers, they were called prairie dodgers because, right, they came and sat out the first war. This is the interesting part. They sat out the first war, World War, as prairie dodgers draft, and they were safe. They Lots of them became amalgamated, assimilated into the surrounding area of Manitoba, and they continued to live there and raise their families, become a part of community. Some of them went home and picked up where they left off in their families. Maybe their fathers sent them across the border, but maybe the fathers were ashamed of their kids for not wanting to go to the war. But they had to make those difficult decisions, right? Their choice. You can't judge somebody for not wanting to go to war, right? That's how I believe. But if you're an American, sometimes, right, that authority is there, and he would have been shipped off, but they found a way. And I named my brand Prairie Dodgers, right? Sometimes, and I didn't know it at the time, but I found the story to be so admirable because it put me in a situation where I had to think, if somebody made me go to war, what would I do? Right? I don't want to go to war. I don't believe in violence. I can't, right? I would, I right? I'm not going to sacrifice myself, right? I would have to hold the gun up. I would have to hold the knife up. I would have to fold my fists up. I wouldn't have any choice if I'm defending my own life. But I'm not going to willingly put myself in that situation, especially not now with the understandings that I have now, right? I'd be living in train cars if they were to to draft me. So women do still have that consideration, but they have lots of other new considerations too. And sometimes, maybe we can be a little bit softer in some of those things that we held so dear where we're not going to budge and stuff, right? Because the males budged a little bit. Well, maybe they didn't have much choice. Women's liberation came, didn't it? And they, right? Women just took their rights away, right? I was never a feminist. I was always independent in my thoughts and in my actions, but right, I've never been a feminist only because I believe so much in that partnership, right? Of two people taking care of the kids. I think the kids are having such a hard time now because one person is trying to do it all, right? Put a roof over the kids' heads, put cereal, milk on their kids' cereal. They're doing it all by themselves, right? And there's that option that, as soon as somebody ticks you off or goes against your grain, because we all show our best sides of us when we're in those relationships, and then you get married and then you slack off. I did it myself. I put on 50 pounds. Did I? Almost 50 anyway. I put almost 50 pounds after I got married because I was so comfortable in my relationship because I knew how much my husband loved me. He loved me, but he never said he didn't like bigger women. But, right, on the norm, men don't like bigger women. And I didn't give it any consideration. I was his wife and he was going to take me however I was because those were my coping mechanisms, right? I was new to relationships. I was very, very new to relationships. In all honesty, I might have even married my first boyfriend that really truly was a boyfriend, right? Lots of those casuals, but those really true boyfriends. He was my first, maybe not my first love, but he was my first true relationships. And he made me feel the way that I wanted, and I felt comfortable for that, and I slacked in my responsibility to that relationship, my accountability to that relationship, because I was saying, take me how I am, right? And who I was in that moment wasn't the person that he had married. And those were my coping mechanisms, being a new relationship and how I coped. Pink ice donuts with sprinkles, right? Okay, let's get into these comments, you guys. Oh my goodness. Okay, I was just looking at the clock here. I remembered that we had a time change, so I want to make sure that we I said, "Oh, I hope I didn't start my live show early today." Maybe I did. Did I start my live show early today? I started it on time, I think. I think I started on time. Okay. Um It's an unequal power dynamic. Good description, Kathy. It's also draining to be in friendship that's about one person's problems, and also when they won't stop talking about the same things over and over but won't make changes, right? Where you're expected to sit in that conversation that you might not and probably not even interested in, right? Right? And then you sit there politely because, right? You're highly sensitive. You're respectful. You would never be that person to say, "Oh, can I talk now?" They did, Owen, the rats. Oh, they did. Okay, so it was true. Yeah, I heard it was like 1,000 cats or something. They weren't even spading them or anything. They were just letting them go in the city and just to take care of the rats, right? Um Cindy, the woods are right behind the house. And yes, the cat just started coming around from the woods. So we started to take. You've got woods in the back of your house, Kathy? It sounds to me you've got my dream house. Don't tell me you have a creek. You tell me you have a creek, I'm gonna end my live show now and have myself a good cry. No, I'm not. But let me know if you have a creek. I would be right. That's absolutely incredible. I would love to have a piece of land with some with some uh with some forest. Like you can get those pieces of land where there's crown land behind your property, right? And it all belongs to the country, so it's probably never going to get developed and right? That would be nice to have for myself. Now, I was just about to look for something here in respect to what we were talking. Oh, yes, one of these. Um, this one. I want to show you one of the properties that I have to put something dark behind it so that you can properly see it. We'll use this so you can properly see it. Okay, you see this property? I cut these. We get these magazines. I just bought one today. Well, you don't buy them. They're free at the grocery store. And on Fridays they put out a new one. And one of my favorite things to do is one of these, and it's full of houses and stuff to sell. But they just don't have the city. They have condominiums. They have commercial. But I like the rural, right out in the country. And every Friday I grab one of these and I go in and I cut out any piece of land that catches my fancy. I don't look so much the money, how much it costs, right? I've done expensive ones and I've done right inexpensive ones. But if it meets what I want for a house, and I'll tell you guys what I would like for a house, right? This is a piece of property that I found that I loved. It was one of my favorites. Bring it over here so you can see. And you can see there's a house in there in the center, but there's forest all around it and crown land all around it. But there's also a main road, so that's kind of nice, right? So that's what I kind of wanted to do because I thought that maybe I would put a mulch trail around that forest. These kind of properties, they come available because farmers are buying up farms next door to them, right? But they don't want the house. They just want to farm the land, right? They just want to farm the land, but it's a perfectly good house. So they let the trees grow around the house, right? So, right? Otherwise, people will come and urban explore them and make YouTube videos, right? But they're perfectly good properties. So sometimes they'll be able to sell it as a lot. They'll give you 1 or 2 or 3 acres. I want acreage, right? Doesn't have to be a lot. I would be happy with 4 acres, right? Or I'd be happy with 360 acres. But I would like a little bit of forest. I would like a little bit of forest. So, yeah, I'll come down to the comments, Kathy, and I'll see when I get down there. I don't know how close I am to the bottom, but just mention if you have a creek. I'd like to know. But that's amazing, Kathy. that you have a forest, that you have woods behind your house. I love, well, you guys know, I love woods. I got woods everywhere. I got woods everywhere. I got wood pictures everywhere. I love the woods. Well, and you guys know I love the woods because my explorations, right? Okay, so let's come back into the comments and see where we left off here. Um, uh, yeah, right behind the house, Kathy. Oh, I would just love something like that. I manifest. It'll happen for me. I am confident in that. Uh, I'm just trying to see where I left off in the comments. Okay, well, yes, I was about to say that, Kathy, that Cindy has come a long way. Oh, Kathy, thank you so much. I know probably I have come a long way because I've been thinking about going back into some of my old videos because I want to put a story together, right? With the urban explorations and some of those, right? I used to do the Google diaries, right? None of you guys heard those conversations. That was in my crazy town, right? When I was going through crazy town, but I did these videos 3 or 4 times a month. I've got tons of them, but lots of it is amazing insight. Like how I come into my live shows when I come back into Chatters Live to get a lesson for myself because I'm in such a flow that I'm not even getting the lesson. So I come back and take the lessons for myself, and I always get something. I thought I should do that with those uh, Google diaries I was doing. Right, I was just taking my camera and I was just right. I couldn't even imagine how much magic and how much lessons there are in those, right? But I think at the same time, right? Do I really want to see me in that crazy town state? Because it was crazy town. I tell you, there was a couple of months that were just totally write off. I don't even know where the groceries came from, how I right. Well, I knew I probably wasn't paying the rent because right, it was COVID and I had no job. Like I have no idea. I went through a couple of months basically sitting in my chair, staring off into space. It was never had an experience like that in my entire life. It took me for a loop, but I was really grateful that YouTube was there and Google was there because they right away, I have no idea, but right away they started and right away the lessons started coming in and I kind of started to understand what the what was up a little bit, a little bit. It was only a hint to the next thing and it was just wow, right? It's only now that I feel that pressure because up until now, it's been fun, right? It's been really interesting and an adventure, and that resolve in that hope that my family, going forward for another few thousand years, aren't going to have some of those problems that they've had in the past, right? And I understand that, as much as some of these characters hurt me, they were hurt too, right? They were hurt too, and they have different stories. And a lot of my stories, I never said anything. I just endured it, right? So I can imagine being as toughies as they were, that they probably endured quite a bit of it too, to the point where, right, that enduring just maybe even seemed at some point comfortable, right? It was never comfortable to me. To me, it was always, I don't love you. It was always a rejection. It was always, you're not good enough. It was always, you're not even worth the air you're breathing. And it was, yeah, I've come a long way. Thank you for noticing, Kathy. Oh, and that really means a lot to me because I don't get that feedback, right? And and I don't really express all the lessons that I'm actually even absorbing because I understand, right? We're keeping this we're keeping this casual, we're keeping this light because the whole idea is we have to stay soft, right? Right? I think for generations going back in my family, we have been devouring each other. And I think I have this really strong indication that somehow we got caught doing that, right? That we are not creating the best human beings we possibly can. We're just eating each generation out of our own fear of and our own need to survive, right? I think my family has been in survival mode for a very, very long time. I can't imagine that it was forever because I understand epigenetically, right? For me to be at the point I am now, I didn't do it with YouTube videos, right? Right? A lot of that crazy town, not being able to do anything, just sitting in the chair, right? It was a lot of that. And I'm not sure where that credit goes to, but I am grateful, right? So I'm shooting that gratefulness out there right now because that was my cushion, right? Was to understand that, right? Understand, right? This is a process and it's right. I'm doing good. Just stay with it. But I also have this invitation to go deeper, to go further in what I'm doing. But I understand in doing that, right? I'd probably be working with those other parts of me more than I would be working with those human parts of me, other than with myself, right? And I get a feeling of that, and I'm so human, right? I consider myself, right, part of this world, and I don't want to be anything that other than what I am, but at the same time, right, sometimes it's in that comfortableness of what you're at right now, right? I tell you, it wasn't comfortable coming this close to being homeless. It wasn't, and I'm grateful for whatever lessons came across my path. So again, I'm gonna just have to say thank you for noticing. Thank you for noticing. I am humbled by that recognition. That's very sweet of you guys. I'm a little embarrassed by it too, but you know what? Right? It's something I need, and I recognize that. That being recognized for that. It's important, right? It's important for Cindy. It's in right that because well, I'm expanding, right? I am a unique, and as I become more unique, there's going to have less of me to truly, well, I don't think so because I think I'm quite relatable. I think I'm quite relatable, and I think some of those topics that I'm talking about are quite relatable, right? And not just relatable but helpful because we can see in our own evidence, right? In ourselves, right? And just like Kathy said, that's oh, you couldn't have said anything to make me feel better. Okay, so let's get past that. um, Cindy, have you spoke to Nancy recently? Wonder how she was doing. I was going to share the pictures, you guys. Me and Andrew both, we have been spending time with Nancy. She has had such a difficult, difficult time. The first couple of days, she slept in her chair. She slept in her chair without a pillow and without a blanket. She got a little bit of help. She got herself a blanket. She got herself a pillow. Nancy really needed something to hug. She needed something to hug, right? I said, just grab a pillow, Nancy. And that's when she told me that they took her pillows and her blankets too. and her bed is all wrapped up in plastic. So she's been sleeping in her wheelchair. I communicate with her. I try, and thank you for that reminder, Kathy, because I'll make sure that I communicate with her some more. Uh, she got herself a new doll. She needs to hug something. She needs something desperately. She is so scared. She's very scared. Um, but she's gonna survive this. She told me herself she's not gonna let it bring her down. She said she's been through worst, but it's the thing that it's just, sometimes, when you go off on somebody, right? Somebody says, "Can you pick up the garbage?" And you just go, "Rah!" Right? You let them have it. But you're not letting them have it because they asked you to pick up the garbage, right? You're letting them have it because the mailman was late, right? Your husband didn't take the garbage out to it's garbage day 4. He didn't take the garbage out, right? You were late for work. You missed your bus, and then all of a sudden, somebody says, "Can you pick that up?" And that was the last straw, and you let them have it, right? But Nancy is a trooper, and she's gonna get through this, but I just don't get it, right? Like, when you look for the evidence, I talk about you want to see the evidence before you make any movement or anything. But you also want to pay attention to the ridiculousness of things that don't make sense, those things that are out of the ordinary. And those hits that Nancy takes are out of the ordinary. They're and I'm right. Don't mess with Nancy, right? She's got to be a something very special, that something is trying so hard to always keep her down. And that's how I feel. It might sound wacky in that, but right, I believe in something. And what that something is, right? I can't say, right? I'm not a religious person. And even though this movement that I'm making is considered more on the spiritual aspect, I'm not quite sure if I'm a spiritual person either. But obviously, because of the evidence, I know there's something else. I know there's someone or something running the show. And if I know that, if I'm 100% right in line with that, why can I not accept that possibly the ridiculousness of one seemingly quiet, meek, gentle, sweet, handicapped, in a wheelchair, poverty stricken woman is such a threat that these things have to keep popping into her life? I got a problem with that. I got a problem with the human being treated like that. I got a serious problem with that. I got a serious. We are all as humans so messed up because of these kind of games, right? That one person or one part of us thinks that they are the owners and the dictators and the controllers and the decision makers of another. And if somebody's not following on track, then that there's going to be a little bit of punishment in that. Or to be able to keep Nancy so low in her emotions that she doesn't have that opportunity like I did, right? To find that brightness again and again in that evidence in my life. I know that that's the case, that she's being purposely kept in her negative state, purposely. I don't know by who, I don't know by what, but 100% I know by something. And yeah, sorry, Dave, for when I figure out who and what that is. If it's in my power to do something about it, it's so sad. But at the same time, I'm grateful to be Nancy's friend because she's something super. She's something special. She's something very, very powerful that others are so afraid of that they have to keep giving her a kick when she's already down, right? And I think that's the best compliment that I could give to that woman. Thank you for asking about her, Kathy. Thank you for asking about Nancy, right? Because I, oh, right? And sometimes I even wondered, is this relationship that I have with her, right? Is that attention going to Nancy, that these struggles that she has is because of that relationship that she has with me, right? Is it like, right? I don't know what it is. All I know is too ridiculous to just be a possibility. Oh, it can happen. Oh, it happened. No, it's too ridiculous. It's too often, and it just doesn't make any sense. And so it tells me something, right? And I'm not worried about Nancy. Nothing's going to take Nancy down, right? But I would like to see Nancy have some happiness in her life, have some joy in her life, right? Have some hugs in her life. I would really really like that. Okay. You guys want to hit that button up there for Nancy? There should be a red button there beside on the right hand side there. Hit that button because she'll be in later. She watches the live shows. If she doesn't come in during the live, she watches them afterwards. So hit that button and I leave, right? The conversation going. And, she would think that was absolutely amazing that you guys, she's thanked me so many times and sent me emails and pictures, and she's truthful with me, right? She lets me know, right, when things are really really tough. Nancy is not somebody unlike me. If she needs help, she'll come right out. She won't let herself suffer. She won't let herself fall to the wayside. Me on the other hand, right? I'm a stubborn but I'm trying to soften too, right? I'm trying to soften. And how does Nancy stay so soft, right? Maybe Nancy has to come in and, right, give us a conversation in that, right? Because she manages to stay soft. But we all have that sense of control. I have that control. Nancy has that control, right? We're all pit bulls in aspects of our lives. But that's again, that's our community. That's what makes us so special, right? I do a lot of live shows, right? And lots of them are really wacky conversations. And that's the truth. There is a lot of wackiness out there, and those conversations are important too. But it sure is nice to have these conversations here and see the humanness in them, see the struggle in them, see the resilience in them, see the power in them. It's pretty amazing. It is pretty amazing. Thank you again, Kathy. Okay, back down to the comments. Let's see where. Okay, so Andrew says, I went past what seems to be a homeless person's shopping cart. There were odd items such as a keyboard and a dish drainer, maybe a sign of mental illness. There's a lot of mental illness, you guys, in the world. Uh, Everybody is waking up to what the world is all about, right? They're getting the opportunity to get a good glimpse of what the world's all about. But it's scary, and it's scary for a lot of people. And people are delving into their limiting beliefs. And again, when you're kept in that stage of negativity, you can't get out of that bucket, right? How long has it been for me trying to get out of that bucket with all kinds of things tugging at my leg, trying to keep me in that bucket? It's a process, and some people just don't have that strength, right? They don't have that strength. Some people, they wake up to these ideas and they immediately crash, right? And then right? right? They want to, but it just seems so scary and so hopeless that you just want to be with God, right? And sometimes in those things that make us feel comfortable, we get to go there, right? We get to go there. At least we think we do. It takes away the sting and the sting of it. If we were creating the best human beings we possibly could, right? I don't think there would be a sting. There would be lots of struggle, right? But that pain is absolutely useless. And I do not like the unkindnesses, right? I don't like the unkindnesses. Those unkindnesses is why we are all so messed up. It 100%, right? But it's whose fault is that? You can't really blame anybody because that's the evolution of what we know, right? Just like in those videos that right? I don't want to go back and look at those videos and see who I was 4 years ago and listen to those crazy, stupid, crazy town conversations. It'd be very uncomfortable and embarrassing, but I bet you full of magic, right? Full of information, full of insights that made it through but didn't stick, right? What could I bump into in those conversations? And those conversations are all sitting in my Google Photos, right? Some of those conversations were like an hour long, just talking on my phone when I didn't have somebody to talk to, right? To be able to have that phone. And I'd just pull it out, put on a camera, put it on film, and I would just start talking because it is in my hopes, right? That Google and YouTube the next time around, right? Cindy's not coming back, right? But parts of me I do believe will. And I would hope, right? That right because they have Google and YouTube, they have me in all their betas. They have full permissions with my account. They have proven themselves. They're the evidence, right? My channel wouldn't be here where it is right now without that information that they put across my path, without those people that they put across my path to make me understand that I wasn't doing this by myself and I wasn't the only person doing it by myself and that I wasn't crazy, right? I wasn't crazy. And once you understand that you're not crazy, then you don't feel like you have that need to delve into those things to escape to God. You don't feel like you need that heroin hit. You don't need that glass of booze. You don't, right? You don't need to go gambling. You don't need to eat the pink ice donuts. You don't need to go off and watch pornos. And you don't need to go off and, right, have sex with everything. You don't need to go off and just be compulsive, right? Right? And that's the mental illness, right? But that's us, right? Those are our coping mechanisms because we're just coping the best that we can. So I'm just going to say grateful that my coping is getting better, right? That I'm finding better ways to cope. And just understanding, once you understand, a lot of these things resolve themselves, but not everybody's willing to go and really take a look, right? There's a lot of heartbreak there for me because it's really hard one to suck up that the people who meant the most to you, you didn't mean anything to, right? The people I loved the most, the people I trusted the most, the people I thought had my back, right? Just to find out that that wasn't actually an actuality, right? And that's heartbreaking. So a lot of people would much rather not know than know. But I tell you, oh my goodness, now that I know, thank goodness, thank whoever or whatever, because my family won't have to go through that again, right? That we're hoping that my nieces and nephews and their children and those other parts of us, should they come back, that Google and YouTube will, right? Say, oh, there's that soul that used to be Cindy. Let's snag on to that one. Let's show her or him or her or that some YouTube videos. Maybe Cindy will come across their paths. Maybe they'll connect with me. Ooh, that sounds kind of creepy. Me connect with me. But it happens. Okay, you guys, it's getting deep there. Let's lighten that conversation up a way. We're gonna come down in the conversation. Um, I should say this was an abandoned shopping cart, no one around for days. It happens. I have come across shopping carts with people's belongings when COVID so many times, not just once, quite a few times, 3 or 4 times, where I came across like 3 or 4 shopping carts and furniture and clothing and right, all in big piles in a spot, right? That people just left it there because they had nowheres to take it, right? Right? And then the garbage man comes and says, "Oh, it's making a mess, it's piling it up." They take it to the dump. Uh, Andrew says, I had a 19-year-old supervisor for a short time. She was so condescending and thought she knew how to run things. For her sake, I hope she's come to realize how much growing up she needed to do. You know what? Those were the worst for me, were the employers, right? Because for me, the employers, I didn't try and have a lot of the authority in my life, right? I try to keep the least amount, but I got to put a roof over my head, right? And unless I'm going to be boss, and I tried to up until recently, every job I stepped into, I worked my way up the ranks, right? There was management. I was part of the management, and it wouldn't take me long because I'd go right to work, working the ranks right away because it was to my benefit to be in charge. But right, I get run over. Right, the employees run me over by calling in sick or slacking, but they care about me. We are a team. We get the job done, right? But it's those bosses sometimes when they disrespect you and you can't do anything about it, right? You can't defend yourself in any way because that's the roof over your head, right? So those were the worst ones for me because, being highly sensitive and where we look at when we talk about triggers, for me, the trigger always started with the yelling, right? And then depending on whether or not I was at school, that yelling could turn aggressive and it would be bullying and then being beaten up. At home, um, uh, I just lost my train of thought on that. Holy moly, that was fast, right? But oh yeah, we were talking about the triggers and the trauma. Thanks for getting that back to me. But you know, at home with my mother, it was always I'm going to get yelled at because it was constantly yelled at, and usually the yelling was accompanied by slaps, right? And when I got a little bit older, it became a little bit more. It became very scary. So I was always on the edge. So I was all in my hypervigilance. It's like I'm about to get it, right? So, managers are very difficult for me. I actually had to have a conversation with my old manager because she was constantly triggering me, always yelling at me. Like the anger was just like going for the jugular, right? But I never truly felt the intent, right? That meanness in her. And we became very, very good friends. I consider her a friend. I don't have a lot of friends. I have friends, but those close friends that you see every day, right? That you check on every day, right? We got Nancy. That's about as close as it. But once Nancy's good to go on her own, she's going to be on her own and I'll be off, right? Right? And she's independent anyway. She's not going to want me clinging around her and stuff, right? But I'm just there to support her, right? Let her know that she's not alone. But it was me, it was the yelling, always thinking that I was about to get in trouble. It's what makes me an amazing, amazing employee. I'm that employee that I would want if that was my store. When I work, I'm that employee. right? I am that perfect employee. And that's hard to live up to those standards, right? But I live up to those standards because I'm going to get in trouble, right? I think I'm going to get in trouble because I forgot to lock the door, forgot to do the cash, or forgot to, right, hang the clothes up properly, forgot to mop, right? It could be anything because there are so many things you have to do on a shift. There's so many things, and it just takes one thing to forget. And again, if that person's had a bad day or one trouble after another or one disappointment or consistently every day she comes to work, there's clothes not on their hangers. And I happen to be that person who walks in that day, she tears me a new one because of the clothes, right? Not necessarily she's digging into me, but it's out of her own frustration of it continually happen. Now I understand that, but there was a time like if that happened to me, I would take it so personally and I would just like, what are you talking about? Right? And I'm an over explainer too. So I would over explain why I would do things, right? It's a silly thing, but it's part of the programming and I'm getting a lot better at it, right? And I recognize that. I don't need anybody to let me know that, right? I am becoming uh more of a caregiver for myself. That's exactly what it is. I'm being a caregiver for myself, right? Right? We're all naturally caregivers, the good ones anyway, right? And if somebody is not caregiving in some way, I think that would be a good indication to say you're probably not around the most right amazing people in the world. That maybe it's a possibility that you should be on right? Because those people will support you like you support them, not in a transactional way, because you love them, you care for them, you want to see them do good, right? Okay. Andrew, I'll bet that she was like that because she was covering up her feelings of inadequacy. Right. Sometimes with those strong traits that we have as individuals, as empaths, and lots of times we put on those personas. Don't mess with me, right? Because we're trying to protect ourselves and stuff. And 100%, Kathy, it is the inadequacy that we can find that. Right, that inadequacy that makes us react that way, right? Let me show you who's boss. Right? Yeah. Living in train cars makes me think of people in the story Fahrenheit 451. I never heard of that one, who dropped out of society and lived in train cars in the wilderness. Really? I'm going to write that down. That looks like a Cindy story for sure. Oh, I spilt my a cup of coffee all over my desk. And I had to throw out my notes. And I had lots of notes, great notes there and stuff that I wanted to backtrack. There was a conversation. You guys, this would be interesting. Okay, so the males could do the females or the males too if you like the males, and the girls will do the males or the girls if they like the girls, right? But they did a survey about who in what countries had the most handsome men and women, right? And so I thought about it and I didn't get one of the countries right. It turned out it was Turkey, it was um Turkey. It's like, oh, I remember. Oh my goodness. Is that the only one that I remembered? There were five of them. See, and I had them all written in the book. So I played that game too. So I made a list for myself, the kind of people in different countries who I thought, but I would like to give you something to compare because it was pretty funny because when I made my list was almost totally opposite of the list that is the majority in the polls, right? But there was Turkey, there was Italy, there was Turkey, Italy, Australians. Remember. And then so I thought about it for a few. I spent some time thinking about it. I knew a few of them. I love the Persians. I think the Iranian men are very handsome. I like the Turkish men too, right? I think the Turkish men are handsome. But the Middle East, those Middle Eastern men are very, very handsome men. I like the Persians. Oh, Spain was one of theirs of the majority who voted. So Persian men for me. I like the Filipino men. I think Filipino men are very handsome. But you got to remember, I'm going to mix a little bit of the personality and the values in with what handsome, because I'm somebody who believes the inside is just as important as the outside. So, it makes sense that my choices were a little bit different. So I said I like the Persian men, I think are handsome. I think the Filipino men are very handsome. I think the Scottish men and women very handsome. That red auburn hair and the freckles, like, oh my goodness, so handsome, so pretty, right? Um, so I said Scottish men, and that accent is pretty sexy, isn't it? That Scottish accent. Um, and then I said Persian, Filipino. Oh, I said Mongolian men. Mongolian men have a strength about them. They're very family oriented, number one. They are nomads. It's something that I'm familiar with, and I love that life of nomadship. If I was super super rich, right, I'd be doing road trips all the time. Always with a great destination, but I'd be doing road trips all the time, right? But it was really, really interesting because I was so far off from what the majority said were handsome. But it's to each one of us in our tastes, right? It's each one of our tastes because oh, and then I was going to say the American indigenous. I think North American Indians are I don't know if you're supposed to call them Indians, indigenous. I think they're very handsome race, but not only are they handsome race, I think they're very, for the most part, kind and knowledgeable, right? Knowledgeable, very spiritual people, but very much to the family. And, I have been introduced and I have made friends with some indigenous people, and, they have been very kind to me. And not just kind to me, but kind to their own kind. And that's admirable, isn't it? It's very, very admirable. Okay, we're coming down in the comments here. Um, but oh, that's what I wanted. My pen here because I want to check out what you're talking about Fahrenheit 451. 451. I don't know how to spell Fahrenheit, but I trust that Andrew knows how to spell it, so I'm just going to copy him. Spelling was never my forte. I never did well in school. I'm a good student now. I think my spelling is much better. My vocabulary is much better, only due to the fact that I do spend so much time in social media. I've been on these platforms since 2014, so over 10 years, right? So you learn things along the way, right? But yeah, I'm going to look into that. Andrew, that looks really interesting. Andrew says, I had a teacher who said that if all the soldiers went on strike, there would be no more war. We can decide as majority. I think Russia has not taken the Ukraine for only one reason, and that's because the rest of the world will not tolerate it happening. Otherwise, they would have done it in the first or second day. But we're making it such a difficult decision because there'll be ramifications out the yin yang, right? They are determined. They want that country. They think that country belongs to them. They are determined and they will figure out a way, but you won't figure it out through war. Not now, right? I think humans are too far advanced. We understand we're not going to move forward at all if we continue with this war and this what is it? Uncivilized way of living and this uncivilized way of how we treat each other, right? Okay. You guys, so many uh no, I didn't pick it up. Andrew, I or William, I see it. William says the snake man. I sent Andrew or William a picture. He likes the Masters of the Universe. Is that what you like, William? He really loves that, and he showed me one of those cases, and this one came in. I recognized it right away as one of them. And so, yeah, Snake Mountain. So I sent him a picture. It came in through the donation. So I sent William a picture of it. Yeah, it was pretty cool. Came in with lots of toys. Came in with yesterday I sold almost a $200 transformer for $10. I didn't know it was worth $200. And I put a $10 price tag on it because it was a transformer and it ended up being, right? I just like, are you kidding me? Almost $200. I've done that before. It's not the first time I've done that. You guys remember when I sold the Chanel purse, the $11,000 Chanel purse for $20? I did that accidentally. I still talk about it all the time. Accidents happen. We learn from our mistakes. And I had another Chanel bag come in today, but it was this really, oh, it smelled so bad. It was a gym bag. It was a women's gym bag smelled so bad. And the person I bought or who bought it, I forgot to tell him how bad it stunk, right? Because he didn't open it up. He just trusted that it was good. And he took it because I told him to take it, right? But it stank so bad. And I forgot to tell him to put some bounce sheets inside the bag, right? To help get rid of that smell of the gym. You know that gym smell. Oh, it was pretty bad. But he got a good deal on it, right? So if he wanted to move it along, he should be able to do okay. Right? My boss wants her cut, but once she gets her cut, she don't care what you guys do with it. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Andrew says, and hello, William. Hello, William. Andrew says, I could have applied and gotten a supervisor assistant position and maybe gone on to supervisor, but the stress and detail and responsibility were more than what I wanted to deal with. I had the same situation happen to me, but it wasn't a matter of more work or more stress. It wasn't that at all. It was totally for my brand. I did right. I took the position because right, I didn't want to put so much change on everybody. Everybody was used to how things were running at the time. So I took the position, but I quickly realized it wasn't the position I wanted. I only took it right because it was the easiest thing for everybody. And, I wanted to work my brand, right? I can't be in management. I can't be a supervisor when I want and to be something else where I'm applying myself and putting in as much time into something else as I am into my own job. And then to be responsible and be called in on, right? And then have to pull because I'm accountable. I said yes to that position, right? That I have to pull in those extra shifts. And then next thing you know, I would have been full time. I don't want to be full time at that job, right? Right? I want to be full time at this job. Not necessarily just sitting here, but I adapt and conquer, and this is good, right? Everything is good. But when it's better, it's going to be better. 100%. Okay. But yeah, I agree. If it's not for you, you get out of it right away. Don't even bother applying it. Right? It was a little bit of that guilt and shame if I didn't say yes. Right? I just said okay because I thought it would be the easiest for everybody. Quickly realized it wasn't going to be anything except Cindy giving her power away again. Right? So I just said no, that ain't going to happen, and it was very uncomfortable, right? They weren't pleased with me doing that. They weren't pleased with me at all, at all, right? And it's understandable for that because I let them down in what they thought was going to be a partnership, right? And I just couldn't do it, right? Yeah. But things have healed since then. So much things are so much better, right? And I'm grateful to work for a company that has treated me so well. Yeah. Oh, it's a movie. Oh, I'm going to be watching it for sure, Andrew. Going to be watching it for sure. Oh, interesting. Oh my goodness, I've come all the way down to the bottom of the comments already. That's fantastic. 9:14, you guys. It's 9:14. Wow. That was perfect. A perfect night. A perfect end to a, well, it wasn't a perfect day, but it was pretty amazing. And we got it all done. And, right, the bosses will be happy. They got the numbers they wanted, right? My boss will be happy. The stores in the state that she appreciates in. She left, I have to say, my boss manager, when I came back to work last week, she left it in such a great state. And she's not feeling so great herself, right? I really appreciate the effort and how nice the store looked and how well I started my week in that, right? But yeah, it was a surprise and it was pleasant. It was a pleasant surprise, right? I'm glad my job is over for the week. I'm going into my days off now. I'm going to take some lessons. I'm going to have some dinner. I'm gonna have some dinner. Maybe I'll just have some toast tonight. I feel like some toast tonight. Yeah, maybe that's what I'll have. You guys, let's say our goodbyes for tonight. If you want to come in tomorrow, we'll be picking our 31st word out of 54 words. I've decided it has been a rough decision, but I guess I'm deciding right now because as soon as I vocally commit to it, it happens. I'm gonna spend some time after these 54 words are done. Going to be taking some time for myself to finish off the deck, right? I won't be doing daily lives, right? So we're going to say that now. It'll probably be uh 3 or 4 days a week, and then my Instagram. So I'll still be around lots. Chatters Live is not going anywhere. It's right. It's Sunday nights. It's my first show. It's my most important crew, right? It doesn't go anywheres. But I'm thinking of writing a book. I want to call it. Uh, well, I won't call it anyway. Anything. Well, I can call it whatever I want to because right, nobody else would call it. I want to call this book Secondhander because it was my nickname when I was a kid. It was meant to be directed at me as a cruelty and stuff. My mother used to buy my clothes at the secondhand store, and the kids at school found out that my mom bought secondhand clothes, and I got ended up with the nickname Secondhander to realize that the last job that puts the roof over my head, right? Regular job that puts the roof over my head. that it's a secondhand store, that it's a secondhand store, and that I made that promise to myself that I was never going to buy brand new again, that I was only going to buy secondhand from now on. You guys, I have to tell you, I bought my dining room table. It was $40. I got a little stiff staff discount. I got it for $28. It has folding leaves that folds down. I thought it would be good if I should get out on the road and decide to go vanning, and I could turn it into the table in my van, or it's just small enough and just good enough, right, for a small apartment. Or I can tuck it up against the wall, or I can put it beside my desk here as an extension on my desk. And it's in the colors that I'm going for, in that cream kind of rough around the edges kind of color. So, oh, I got a dining room table finally. Finally a dining room table. Don't know where I'm going to put it. Probably take the legs off and just put it away for now. Or, like I said, I'll use it as an extension, maybe right here. Then you wouldn't see my books, but who cares about being seen? Oh, but then you'll see my messy desk because I'll be using it as my desk. It'll probably be for my laptop. And where the laptop is, that means I'll be turning around to do my live show. Then you'll see my bed. So we'll keep it at this. I don't know what I'll do with the table. I'll do something with it in the meantime. I live in a studio apartment, but it's better that I invest that money now, $28, than right to cough up two or $300 down the road for something that I don't like as much. This one I like. It's vintage, but it's exactly what I'm looking for. So I was really pleased to get the table. Okay, you guys, I am a bubble brain now. I am going to enjoy my rest of my evening. Hopefully, I covered all my bases because there were a few things because I had those books and was full of notes and stuff and ideas and right. But I spilt my coffee on it. So you fly with your seat of a pants. Your pants. There were only like little point shoots that I may or may not talk about, like that list of the most handsome men or the most handsome women, right? It was interesting to see how different it was from my own opinion. But that's in our own opinions. It takes all kinds to make the world. And just because somebody's not attractive to me doesn't mean that person's not attracted to somebody else because we're all looking for something else. For me, the inside is just as important as the outside, right? So I'd like to have a beautiful inside, right? More than I would like to have a beautiful outside. Ooh, that's the truth. Okay, you guys, we'll see you next week. Have a great night.